You know that person who walks into a room full of people and immediately calculates the exact distance to the exit? The one who rehearses a simple hello 3 times in their head before actually saying it out loud? The person who goes to a party, has one decent conversation, and then spends the rest of the night pretending to be really fascinated by the host's bookshelf? Yeah, maybe that person is you. And if it is, I need you to know something right now. You're not broken, you're not defective, and despite what every self-help guru and LinkedIn motivational post has tried to tell you, you don't need to put yourself out there more. Because the psychology of people who struggle to make friends, it's not about lacking social skills. It's about having a different operating system in a world that only validates one type of connection. Let me describe a moment you've probably felt 1,000 times, but never heard anyone actually talk about. You're at some gathering, work event, birthday party, doesn't matter. There's that split second when the group conversation shifts, right? Someone finishes a story and there's this collective intake of breath before the next person jumps in. And in that microsecond gap, you have something to say, something relevant, something funny even. But you wait. You wait just half a second too long to see if the thought is worth saying. You run this little quality control check in your brain. Is this interesting? Is this the right tone? Will this land? And by the time you finish that internal audit, someone else has already started talking. The moment's passed, and you just let it go. But here's what's happening in that silence that no one else sees. You just looked at 17 different variables. You assessed the room's energy. You considered whether your comment would shift the mood or maintain it. You weighed whether it would make you look trying too hard or genuinely contributive. You did in half a second what most people don't do at all, and then you chose silence because the math didn't add up. Society calls this overthinking. I call it actually thinking. Because here's what nobody tells you about people who struggle to make friends. You're not struggling because you lack social ability. You're struggling because you have too much social intelligence. You see the performance. You see the scripts people are running. You see the transactional nature of small talk, the peacocking, the status games, the way people collect friends like Pokemon cards just to say they have them. And some part of you, maybe the smartest part, looked at all of that and said, I don't want to play this game. This isn't a flaw, this is a filter. Let me introduce you to a concept from sociology called impression management. It was popularized by this guy, Irving Goffman, who basically argued that all social interaction is performance. We're all actors on a stage, managing how we appear to others, switching between our front stage, public self, and our backstage, private self. Most people, they do this seamlessly, unconsciously. They've got their party persona, their work persona, their Instagram persona. They move between these masks so smoothly they forget they're even wearing them. But you're hyper-aware of the mask, and that awareness creates friction because once you see the performance, it's really hard to just perform without feeling like a fraud. It's like watching a magic trick after someone's explained how it's done. You can go through the motions, sure, but the magic's gone. So friendship for you becomes this exhausting cost-benefit analysis. How much of myself do I have to perform away to make this connection work? And the answer, too often, feels like too much. Now here's where it gets interesting. There's this phenomenon in psychology called the paradox of choice. The more options we have, the more paralyzed we become, and the less satisfied we are with whatever we finally decide on. And friendship in the modern world, it's become this overwhelming marketplace of options. We're supposed to have work friends, gym friends, brunch friends, online friends, networking friends. We're told we should be building our personal brand and our network and our community. The word friend has been so diluted it barely means anything anymore. But you're sitting there thinking, I don't want a network. I want like 3 people I can call at 2 a.m. who will actually pick up. And that's the thing that separates you from the algorithm-optimized social butterflies. You're not looking for a friend count, you're looking for actual friendship, and those are not the same thing. Look, there's this massive disconnect between how society measures social success and what actually creates human connection. Society counts things like how many friends you have, how many parties you attend, how quickly you respond to messages, how often you're staying connected. But actual friendship, the kind that matters, gets measured in completely different metrics: vulnerability, consistency, depth, the ability to sit in silence with someone without it being weird. You're running the wrong race. You're optimizing for a finish line that doesn't even lead where you actually want to go. Think about it like this. Everyone's on social media, performing their best life, curating their friend groups like gallery exhibits. They're at every event, every happy hour, every group chat. They're so blessed to have such amazing people in their lives. But then you actually talk to these people, really talk to them, and they tell you they feel alone. They're surrounded by people and still lonely because they've built a network, not a connection. They've optimized for quantity and lost quality in the process. You didn't make that mistake. You refused to. The truth is, the modern world has turned friendship into content. Every hangout's a photo op, every conversation's potential material for a story. Every relationship is part of your brand. We're not living our friendships anymore. We're performing them for an audience that doesn't actually care. And somewhere deep in your psychology, you recognized this. You saw that the game was rigged, that the definitions had changed, that making friends now meant something shallow and transactional that had nothing to do with actual human intimacy. So you opted out, not because you can't play the game, but because you don't want the prize. Here's the loophole nobody talks about. The things that make you bad at making friends are the exact same things that make you good at keeping them. That overthinking you do, that's discernment. That hesitation before you speak, that's thoughtfulness. That exhaustion you feel after small talk, that's because you're craving depth, and depth requires energy that small talk doesn't give back. You're not faulty, you're selective. And selective isn't a weakness when everything around you is screaming, more, more, more. There's this concept in philosophy about the difference between the life lived and the life performed. Most people are so busy performing their life for others, curating it, optimizing it, broadcasting it, they're so concerned with how their friendships look that they never stop to ask if those friendships feel good. They're collecting experiences to prove they're living, rather than just living. But you're the opposite. You'd rather have one conversation that changes you than 100 conversations that confirm you're likable. You'd rather stay home and have a night that means something to you than go out and have a night that looks good on Instagram. You're choosing the life lived over the life performed, and that's rare. That's almost radical in a world that monetizes performance. And yeah, it's lonely sometimes. I'm not going to lie to you and say that it isn't. Choosing depth in a world optimized for breadth means you'll have fewer connections. But fewer doesn't mean less. 3 friends who actually know you? That's worth more than 300 who know your highlights. 5 people who've seen you fall apart and stayed? That's worth more than 5,000 followers who like your posts. You already know this. You've always known this. That's why you can't bring yourself to play the game. So here's what I want you to understand. You haven't been losing at friendship, you've been refusing to compete in a rigged competition. The people who make friends easily, a lot of them are just better at surface-level performance. They're better at being palatable, agreeable, low stakes, and there's nothing wrong with that for them. But that's not you. You're not built for surface level. You're built for depth. And depth takes time, vulnerability, risk. It can't be rushed. It can't be hacked. It can't be optimized. The world told you that struggling to make friends means there's something wrong with you. But what if it just means you have standards? What if it means you refuse to betray yourself for the comfort of belonging to people who don't actually know you? You haven't been missing out, you've been holding out. And that's not the same thing. You're not the problem. The game is.